by these, I guess, primer or the firing pin marks. So what you do is, let's say here is the gun, the spent cartridge that you recovered. Again, the firing pin is smashed into it, leaving this kind of hole, I think, or at least made the hole bigger. So this well, I guess, bigger. And it hit the sides and it left these marks. So what they did is they took their own bullet and they put it into the same exact gun, and they want to see what the firing pin left on the suspect's gun. And they found the marks line up very well. So we see individual characteristics. They were able to link the suspect's gun to the bullet used in the crime, or to the cartridge, which includes a bullet, used in the crime. And they actually accepted this kind of evidence. This is from the firing pin. This is, it's really hard to say where this is, but these are made by the moving the bullet into the firing chamber left these individual scratch marks on one bullet and on the exemplar bullet. I think this is the exemplar over here. And because they line up, we say it must be that the suspect's gun was actually used to fire the bullet used in the crime. And they actually said these are actually cases, photographs of actual cases, actual pieces of evidence that were brought to the court. So in general, the way firearm forensics are done, what you do is you try to get the bullet or the cartridge used in the crime. Again, you recover the cartridges, unless the criminal was smart enough to to collect them when they landed on the floor. But these are criminals. They're not necessarily neat freaks. They don't necessarily pick up all the traces of their crime. Anyway, so you try to get the bullet, which is often lodged in the victim, and the cartridge if you can. Then when you have a suspect, again, if you don't have a suspect, there's not much to do. Get the suspect's gun, fire the suspect's gun into the water tank. Again, you have to use the same ammunition. Otherwise, because different ammunition can cause different marks on them. But anyway, use the same ammunition, which is usually not a problem. And you fire into the water tank and collect that exemplar from the water tank. You compare the two using a comparison microscope. If the striations are exactly the same, then you know you have a match, and you can say that, well, this suspect's gun was used in the crime. Okay, there are problems with it. One of the main ones is that bullets don't always stay exactly the same. When they hit the target, they can deform, and some bullets are actually designed for this. Because when bullets they just hit the target, they just damage that place around it. When they deform, then they swell. Their volume that they can damage suddenly gets a lot more, and that's what people want. They want to destroy the target, and so they want bullets that will spread out and break apart even when they hit the target, damaging more of the target. So these are hollow point bullets are actually designed to do this. So what you get, so the forensic person is going to get a bunch of shards, maybe, or pulled apart, bullets, which, you can't really match striations very well when you have that. Hopefully you'll get it, and especially if the bullets don't land in a flesh area, they may get to the bone and deform. They may land they may not have any from the victim. They may land in a wall where they're going to be completely deformed. And again, they're just not found. The bullets might have been passed through the victim, and you just don't know where they landed. And even though you're supposed to be professional at the crime scene, maybe they just weren't found there. So if they're not found, there's not much to compare them to. So usually, in fact, only a part of the bullet, the part that wasn't deformed, is available for comparison, and there might not be enough striations to compare to the exemplar. Also, we need a suspect's gun. If he throws away the gun, or he destroys it, or it's completely lost, we can't compare it to what the suspect had because he doesn't have it. Also, another interesting idea that has to be people in law enforcement have to recognize is that the bullet striations do change roughly change every 3 to 5 shots. every time a bullet passes through the barrel, it may add some more scratches and it may obliterate some other scratches. So that generally doesn't happen, but it takes about 3 to 5 shots before that happens, before you can actually change, or you can suspect a change in the barrel leading to a different striation pattern. So that's why the forensic analysts, they know, do not fire more than 5 bullets. Usually, it's not a problem, because if you fire only 1 or 2 and you recover those, I mean, that's really enough, because the water tank doesn't destroy the bullets. But if you fire, let's say, more than 5, and you say, well, there's no match anymore, that doesn't really prove anything. You might have obliterated the striations. So be careful. You have to be careful with that when you analyze bullets. So if we can match up bullets to the striation of bullets to others, wouldn't it be great to have a database that has all these bullets that were used in all different crimes, so that if you find someone's bullet, that had the same striations, you can connect the 2 crimes. If it's from a person that you know, you can solve the crime, because you can identify this unknown bullet that you found in the database, the striations of this unknown bullet, to the person who you know. So wouldn't it be great to have a database? They do have one. The NIBIN, the NIBIN, National Integrated Ballistics Information Network. It has a database of lots and lots of bullets. Every state can keep their own, or every police force that has a forensic laboratory, they can keep their own. But this one is the national one. And for whatever reason, the ATF runs the site, but the FBI runs how to communicate and get information back and forth from the site. So this is a database not only for the bullet striations, also for the cartridge marks, such as the firing pin marks. So in the future, what they are hoping to do is to integrate all the information from all bullets from all crime laboratories all across the United States. Okay, good luck with that, and they are working on it. But this would enable, again, people to connect suspect bullets with lots of other crimes in the past. It's also a good idea to test fire every single weapon they have, every weapon, every hunting gun, and see the markings for all bullets. This is class characteristics. To know where the lands and grooves are for every bullet. So this is before they're sold to the public, so that whenever we recover a bullet, we can immediately tell. You go to this database of, let's say, 50. I don't know how many kinds of guns and bullets are out there, but let's say 100, and relate yours immediately to these other 100, and you'll know exactly what kind of gun was used. And this can, again, if you know the kind of gun, you might be able to narrow down the suspect. And if it's like a very rare gun, well, maybe you can narrow it down to 1 or 2 people. So it might be very useful. It's called ballistic fingerprinting, but this is not fingerprints. It's only class characteristic, but it's very useful. Another thing they're thinking of doing, they have not been able to do this, and I don't think they will succeed, but who knows? They might have a law that compels all firearms manufacturers to have their firing pins of their guns put a serial number into the primer, so that when the hammer or the firing pin hits the primer, it will leave a serial number, so that they'll know which gun and which firearms manufacturer and which kind of gun, and possibly who the gun was sold to. You'll know exactly how to connect the bullet found to the gun, and therefore for the person who bought the gun, and you'll be able to connect it that way. So of course, if you put a unique serial number into every firing pin, you're going to make it more expensive. So right now, the firearms manufacturers they're not on board